Welcome to Totally Talent Podcast by HR.com, your go-to source for all things talent. Whether you're looking for expert insights on high-volume hiring, the latest trends in recruitment technology, or strategies for building a winning team, we've got you covered. Join us for each episode as we dive deep into the challenges and opportunities shaping the talent landscape today. Let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Totally Talent here on HR.com. My name is Mike Wood, and I have a great friend joining me today, Melissa Barker from the Duffy Group. Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Yes, we've been talking about the summer and lots of fun things to do and dogs. But what we're talking about on the show is executive search, which is what you do. So tell me a little bit about your background and what the Duffy Group does.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, we could certainly talk about this. Talking about vacations is really fun too, though. So,
Yeah.
so I have a career in HR and in executive recruitment and worked for the nation's largest contingent recruiting firm. So that's kind of how I got my sea legs in recruiting. Did that for quite a while, but decided that wasn't the model that I really liked and found Duffy Group, we're located in Phoenix, Arizona. And I loved her model. So Kathleen Duffy is the one that founded Duffy Group 35 years ago. So I liked that it was a stable company, certified female owned, but she was doing something different. And I really liked that. So I joined this firm 13 years ago, which is hard to imagine, but 13 years ago. And ironically, one of the reasons I joined initially was because of the different model, but also because of the flexibility. I was a mom with young kids and I could, still walk them to the bus stop and work a whole day. And so that was really important to me. But I am now the Chief Revenue Officer here at Duffy Group. And in that role, I work with all of our practice leaders. I work with our recruiters to make sure that we are delivering the level of search performance that our reputation has helped us build.
So tell me a little bit about like that contingent model and what that model's like and what the Duffy Group does that's different.
Absolutely. So in the world of recruiting, talent acquisition, there's really two main models that are out there that people really know. One is contingent, and contingent is where you don't pay the firm anything until the end, and then you pay them a percentage of the salary. And so in that model, the recruiting firm represents the candidate because they want their candidate hired in the shortest amount of time because that's how they make their money. And then retained is the next one. And in retained, you sign a large upfront contract, which is also tied to the candidate's compensation. With our third category that we've really pioneered called informed search, we partner instead with the client. So we represent the client in the equation instead of the candidate. And so our model is hourly. So it's not a big fee. It's not tied to the candidate's compensation. But what we do is instead of posting ads and instead of relying on the database that we've had for, who knows how many years and just throwing spaghetti against the wall to try and make it stick, right? Instead, what we do is we research. We have a really long, in-depth conversation to learn about the position, learn beyond the job description, learn what you really want in terms of cultural fit for the candidate. And then we go out and find them. We find the passive talent. These are the people that are currently working, that aren't really looking for a new job. So we present your story to the candidate. We present your sizzle. And so we want to know, why would somebody leave where they are to come to work for you? That's what we use to talk to the candidates in order to kind of sell your opportunity. And so all of those things are really different than what contingent or retained do.
Gotcha.
That's kind of a long-winded answer.
It's fine. But like, so there's a lot, like you're constantly looking for these executives and you're reaching out. Like, what are the best channels for you? Is it still LinkedIn or is it referrals? Like, what is the best way that you reach people?
And you know what? That's a fair question because I think a lot of people rely solely on LinkedIn, but not everybody's on LinkedIn and not everybody updates their profile. Um, so we use LinkedIn, but mostly to verify people that we've already found. So
Mhm.
we have access to a variety of databases, but really what we do is in that initial conversation with the hiring manager and the stakeholders, we learn from them who are your best targets, who's your competition. And then we research that further and we go to those websites and we find the people. Because most websites will list executives or hiring managers, decision makers on their website. So that's how we find them. We don't need to rely just on LinkedIn. But once we find those names, um, we have databases that will give us like their contact information and we just call them. We'll send them
That's
an
great.
email. We just call them at work. We call them at home. We send them an email. But
Yeah.
we verify them on LinkedIn. So we kind of do that at the end
Yep.
part of the process.
But
But it's good old
you're still
fashioned
doing
research.
the old fashioned way of
Hmm.
digging into someone's website for their competitors, finding out who's working at these competitors and trying to get those people at the executives
Yep.
from the competitors to move over to your firm.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's, good old, it's kind of like being a private eye, right? You
Yeah.
just going out there and trying to find it. And I love it because it's like solving a puzzle. You've got to find those right people to put into the puzzle in the right space.
Now, like with AI kind of like exploding right now and more
Uh,
like have you tried to use AI a little bit to try and help find these people or is it are you seeing I'm so is it has it helped you find the right people and also has it made it more difficult to find the right people because people may be inflating who they are on
right.
AI? I'm just curious how it's affected
So
executives.
AI is all the rage, such a big topic. But one thing that you have to realize with AI is that AI replaces repetitive tasks, but not relationships and not judgment. So in recruiting, and I was telling you earlier this week that I did a presentation yesterday, and this was one of
Oh
our
yes.
topics was AI. And it was great. I learned a ton. It was, I love it when the presenter learns also. But we talked about ways that we all use AI in recruiting. And there's tons of ways that you can. Like for the presentation I gave, we fed AI what the slide looked like, and it created pictures for us
Yep.
and that was great. So AI is great for like interview questions, updating a job description, um, things like that are repetitive administrative tasks, but they're never going to replace the interview, the judgment, the asking the questions that say, okay, so great. I think it's great that you said you led this project. Well, what does that really mean? Where did you come into the process? And one of my favorite quotes that came out of yesterday actually is um, AI can help someone sound qualified, but it can't help them answer the third follow-up question.
That's true. That is
And I
very
thought
true.
that was such a great quote. I actually wrote it down because I thought that was a great quote. Um, but some of the negatives of AI are the skill phishing that you spoke about. So skill phishing is what candidates use in order to kind of overinflate their resumes. And in the days of old, you know, upgrading your resume to make you sound more important or have more experience meant that maybe you expanded the number of months you were at a position to get to that 3-year mark or whatever it is the job
Yep.
description needed, or your title is manager instead of specialist. That used to be how candidates upgraded their resume. But now what they do is they put the job description in the posting and their resume in and ask AI to upgrade the resume to match the job description. So as a recruiter, when you're looking at that resume, you don't know what's true and what's not true. And so that's what skill fishing is, creating a resume based on a job description.
Yeah,
Um,
I think this is a major problem
it is. It
in the
absolutely
industry,
is.
and honestly, I don't know how to fix it. The one thing I was talking or that I've written about is that okay, a resume only has so many variables against the job description.
Right.
And so if everyone's maximizing the resume against the job description, everybody's going to come out in the ATS looking like they're a 95% match.
Right.
And then you have no differentiation anymore.
Right. Exactly.
So what
So
I've
then you're
seen
back
some
to
companies,
square one.
yeah. So
Mhm.
what companies are doing is they're putting an AI interview on top of that. So they've gone
Right.
backwards into the interview meeting more, and now the
Mhm.
interview at the front end is going to give you more variables and a more clear score. And so that's great, but someone's going to find a hack for that.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
you're constant. I think we're constantly going to be in this race of getting ahead of fraud, no matter if it's
Right.
little bits of fraud or major fraud.
Right. And it's the people piece that's going to help figure that out, because it's the people interviewing and asking. And when you're asking an in-depth question, or to that quote point, the third follow-up question, if they don't have a real answer, then they probably skill fished their resume. If you can't describe it in detail and with some passion because it was your project, then it's probably not true. One of the other scary things that candidates can do in the process now is there's actually an app that you can put on the bottom of your screen when you're doing a video interview that will prompt you and give you the answers that you can read at the bottom while the candidates are interviewing.
Yeah, so you're good at reading. You're not necessarily good at what the job's asking. Uh,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
and so that does exist.
Hmm.
I think that tools are going to be able to sniff that out
Hmm.
somehow in the future, but
Hmm.
that doesn't mean it's not going to be like you can't really change people trying to game the system. They're always going to try to game the system.
Right. Of course.
Whether it was like I think I used to either tape a piece of paper next to my monitor or something with some things that I wanted to say on it just to make sure I had it, or I have a sticky note up and stuff.
Right.
Just
Exactly.
little things that people do.
Hmm.
But it's finding out whether they actually have the right skills that they say they do,
Hmm.
and there's a whole market out there for some of this testing. And I think we might have to go back to some of that hard testing to really figure out if people know what they're talking about.
Well, and to your point, that's why executive recruiting will never go away, because you really need that person. You need that personal touch. You need that interviewer who's actually digging in and asking the right questions,
Yeah.
because otherwise, if you don't have that human interaction, you know, humans make decisions. AI can't make decisions on who to hire, and that will never go away. So the future of executive recruiting is certainly not in jeopardy, because you will always need a human with judgment in that process.
So one of the things that's happening now is there are some vendors that are getting flagged by the courts and getting in trouble because their AI systems will make judgments on
Right.
people and assumptions. So, like, let's say
Hmm.
I was out of work for a year or whatever, and there's a big gap in my employment. They'll assume that I couldn't get a job, but I could have been taking care of my mother with Alzheimer's. I could have been doing all sorts of different things.
Right.
And it just assumes that. And so you need a human to be able to find that gray area.
Right.
Like nothing's ever black and white.
Right.
And so like I think that AI will get to a point, but we still need that human judgment to
Hmm.
to say, okay, here are the facts that's in front of me. Why don't I ask this person why they
Right.
really
Exactly. Why did they have a year break in employment? It could be they had surgery and they were recovering.
Yep. And it
You
could be a
know.
combination of, I mean, it is not easy to get a job
Right.
nowadays. So
Right.
I think, if like I've been laid off in the past and it's getting longer and longer for people to find a job. And
Hmm.
you don't want to assume that someone is just unemployable if it takes 6 months or something. You have no idea.
Right. Right.
So tell me I think this executive search at that level
Hmm.
is really a one-to-one person type of
Mhm.
business that isn't going to go away. You can't
Right.
automate executive recruiting because that's a big hire if you think
Mhm.
about it. Like
Mhm.
if you're hiring a new CEO, you're hiring a new CMO, they could tank the company. So like
Right.
there's a lot more weight to
Right.
that.
Exactly. That is one of the points that I made yesterday is, yeah, you can't make the wrong hire because that could affect the financial viability of your company. Well, and my point about executive recruiting is fundamentally about judgment. That's not just at the executive level. It goes all the way down to, directors, managers, supervisors. They all touch so many people within your organization. If you don't do it right, it's going to adversely impact so many more people in your organization than just that one position.
Yeah, one bad hire. I've worked for many CMOs in the past, and
Hmm.
I've been at organizations where they've hired a new CMO that was clearly not a fit. And
Mm,
it just the trickle down effect because nobody wants to work for that person. So
right.
they start looking around. And by the time you get rid of that person, you've lost, maybe 5 or 6 key people.
Right,
So it
exactly, exactly. And hiring, you know, gone are the days when, well, should be, gone are the days when you have a candidate checklist where, okay, you're looking and you're just matching, okay, they met all of the check boxes versus hiring for culture and for vision and for adaptability and their ability to inspire people.
Mhm.
That's what you need to hire for, even if they don't check all those boxes. And so that's part of the executive recruiter's job also is to really counsel and advise those hiring managers because sometimes they can't see the forest for the trees because they're thinking, oh no, look at all those boxes that are checked.
Exactly.
And our job is to tell them, yes, you're right, they check those boxes, but look at the answers to these questions and what did they say about leadership and vision and inspiring people and managing through change. Those aren't
Y-
on your checklist, so you need to think bigger picture.
Now, have you seen any change in terms of like, so there's been a shift I've seen in some of like the corporate leaders of the world where it used to be the more employees you have, the better company you are, and the more people that want to work for you. Now it's the less employees you have, the more profitable company you are.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any of this in your work?
Well, we have some because a lot of I think in today's day and age, everybody wants to run as lean as possible. And so the fewest number of people that you can get the job done effectively, the more profitable the company. And, clearly we learned this during COVID too, when so many people left their positions. And so everybody was running on a skeleton crew all the time. Well, but that's not always sustainable. And so you have to be realistic about how many people you have in your organization in order to get things done efficiently, but without burnout. Because sure, you have less people and you're still efficient, but everybody's burned out and they're all about to leave.
Yeah,
So,
I see a lot of people that, and especially with the layoffs, that they're saying that they can do the job with less people, but the people that are left behind are now doing the job of 2 or 3 people. And you're saying that they
right,
can do the job of 2 or 3 people only because they have AI. So I just don't think you can do that with you can't assume that you can get rid of 2 out of the 3 people on the team and that one person's going to sit there and take it.
exactly, exactly. And that just fosters burnout and resentment. And then those people are gonna leave, and they're probably gonna leave you a bad Google review or a Glassdoor review because you've taken advantage of them for so long. And that ruins the culture of your company. And then no one wants to work there. And then people see those reviews because people read those reviews before they interview for a position.
Of
And
course, I
so,
don't want to step into a place that
right,
everybody hates.
right,
So,
right.
so I'll go to
Because they're
Glassdoor. Yeah.
exactly because they're making you work 3 jobs, but they're showing that they're more efficient,
Yeah.
but you're
I
just doing
do
3
think
jobs.
that so that employer branding type of part of people having, what their employees are saying about them, I think that's gonna be worth more in the future.
Mhm.
beyond just, it's almost like referring a candidate. If you get a
Right.
candidate referral from someone that you trust, then you're going to value that a little bit higher. I think if I
Mhm.
saw actual people that are saying, stay away from this job, I would
Right.
immediately stay away from the job.
Right, exactly. I'm not gonna go. I'm not even gonna consider it.
So if people want to find the Duffy Group and more that you do, where can they go?
So our website is duffygroup.com, and people can email me at mbarker@duffygroup.com.
I appreciate this. I'm sorry for the little bit of technical difficulty in the middle of it, but that's what happens when you have a shoddy internet system like I do. So
Yeah, you know what? That's life.
yeah, yeah. So
It's reality.
anyway, thank you for this, and thank you to all of our listeners for listening to us, and we'll see you on the next Totally Talent.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Thanks for tuning in to the Totally Talent podcast by HR.com. We hope you find today's episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to explore more episodes and discover valuable resources at hr.com/podcasts, where you can listen to all of our podcasts. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and making a difference in the world of talent.